Yes, thoroughly amateur. I don't know why I always start these videos with something silly. I don't plan it. It's just, that's the first thing that pops into my head. I am Robert McKay. You saw the name of the channel. You saw the nature of the thing. This is going to be an episode of Sippin' and Talkin', wherein I sip on whiskey and talk about whatever. I have a whole series, 30, I think it's 32 anyway, 30 some odd videos of whiskey basics. You can find that playlist. It is very thoroughly amateur, more even than this. I have a playlist of whiskey reviews, and I invite you to go and look at both of those, especially if you're new to whiskey. I think you should go, even with the abysmal production. Oh, excuse me. I don't know where that come from. Go and look at the Whiskey Basics videos, because they give you in one place, in one playlist, all sorts of information that I could not find in one place when I was starting out. And of course the whiskey reviews are whiskey reviews, right? Tonight, before I even do that, unscripted, folks, absolutely unscripted. Tonight's whiskey is Balcones Texas Pot Still Bourbon. It is 92 proof. This bottle cost me $27.99. It is aged at least 24 months in oak, which means at least 2 years. Therefore, it is a straight whiskey. A straight whiskey, among other things, has to age at least 2 years, and if it's less than 4 years, has to have an age statement. And this does say straight bourbon whiskey. These labels don't show up well in pictures, but maybe you can see it right down here. Another thing about Balcones is this strip at the bottom with the lone star. How well it'll focus, I don't know. But it says the original Texas whiskey. Garrison Brothers makes a big deal, my allergies, about being the first legal bourbon distillery in Texas. And that's correct. But the first legal distillery in Texas is Balcones Distilling. They got on the market 1 year before Garrison Brothers, but it was a barley whiskey, not a bourbon. But this is what I'm going to pour tonight. And for once, I'm not even going to care what the level is in the glass. It's over where I would normally pour it. But, as you saw by the upside down bottle, not a thing left. We have a dead soldier. And I want to talk about that. But first, all is not lost. What have we here? A brand new bottle. About a year ago, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, a very helpful lady at Balcones Distilling told me, yes, they had quit making bourbon, as the rumors had it. And one thing I can criticize Balcones on is they don't announce things as they ought to. They never announced that they were quitting bourbon. They never announced that Diageo had bought them. That I found to be true by looking at the Diageo website. Balcones never announced it. And I don't like that. It's almost like they don't want people to know these things. But a couple of years ago they had 2 years supply left of this bourbon. Well, that would mean that there's about 1 year's supply left now. And I made a decision that until the bourbon does run out, I'm always going to have one on hand. And so before that one did run out, I bought this one. This I bought, the empty one, on the 4th of March of this year. Cost me $27.99 at Paradise Liquors over on the west side, and for various reasons I am not going over there again. This one I bought on the 23rd of July, so I've had it a few days already. I'm recording this on, I believe it is 12:32 in the morning here. I think it is the 30th of July, so about a week ago, at Q, what do they call it? Q Package Liquors, and they do carry this. This is all I've seen in there. But it was $27.99. This used to be a $30 bottle. It has gone down to $28. But I called this one a dead soldier. I don't know where that term come from. I did look it up on Wikipedia one time, and apparently it originally was dead marine. But why one would call an empty bottle a dead soldier, dead marine, dead sailor, dead whatever, I don't know. But that's the term I learned years ago, and I've only been drinking whiskey now since September of 2021. But I learned a lot of my terminology regarding liquor back in the 70s when I was in my teens. My parents had nothing against liquor. My dad had some whiskey in the house, so I learned that this is a fifth. A smaller bottle would be a pint. I learned to think in terms of proof, not alcohol by volume. And in the United States, by the way, I just talk about proof. That's how I think. But to get the alcohol by volume, you just divide by 2. This is 92 proof. You divide that by 2 to get the alcohol by volume. And way back then, I've somewhere learned the term dead soldier. And all the Balcones whiskey I've ever had, even the couple that I don't like, which was, well, I don't know that it would be right to say 2 I don't like. I definitely did not like the 100 proof rye. To me, it tasted like you put a bunch of grass clippings in the blender and drank the juice. The Brimstone is a corn whiskey, a smoked corn whiskey. They use mesquite smoke, and if they had smoked it considerably less, I would have really liked it, but that smoke so overpowered the whiskey. But even on the stuff I didn't like or didn't much like, all Balcones whiskey I've ever had has what I can only describe as a warmness as you nose it. And coming with it, there's a smoky note. There's cinnamon, caramel, and vanilla, and those three are very typical bourbon notes. They come out of the wood. But the warmth and the smokiness are the overwhelming characteristics on the nose. And I'll get into the palate and the mouthfeel and all that in a minute, but overall, this whiskey makes me think of sitting by a mesquite fire while the barbecue smokes and you're eating candy. And you know, I can give specific notes, and some I've been trying to untangle this whiskey for going on 4 years now, because I got my first bottle of it in December of 2021. And from the very first sip, it's been my favorite whiskey. There was a period where the quality wasn't quite so good and it dropped, but once the quality came back, it went right up to the top of the list. The mouthfeel is just an average mouthfeel for 92 proof, but I'm getting honey and cinnamon and caramel and the smokiness on that sip. And I have to confess, this is not my first of this stuff tonight. When I saw how low this bottle was, I poured a glass and then decided the very last whiskey from that bottle would be this video. So this is my second glass of it. It's sweet and spicy and oaky. And when I swallow, that oak just takes over my tongue. It just, Casey Allen on Beautiful Bourbon uses what he says is a coffee term. I have no reason to doubt him. I'm not a coffee guy. But he takes the word bloom, which has a different meaning apparently in coffee, to describe the way the alcohol spreads through his mouth. Well, when I swallowed, the oak bloomed across my tongue. It started in the middle and just spread all across, and I can still taste it. It's an oaky finish, not too much oak. And it's hard to give me too much oak. I can't remember what it was, but I had a whiskey sometime in the past year or so where the finish was so much oak that I didn't like it, and I wound up not really liking the whiskey at all. But I like oak in my whiskey. I like to be able to taste it, and very frequently, not always, very frequently it turns into chocolate, whether milk chocolate or dark chocolate or baker's. Well, I very rarely get baker's chocolate, but semi-sweet chocolate. But this, tonight at least, is just staying oak, and it's lingering and lingering, and meanwhile down here in my throat I can still, and even down into here, I can feel that hug. You know, everybody says, well, there's a Kentucky hug, but what is it for some other state? Just call it a hug and be done with it. You know, why complicate things and get over cute? You know, when you get cute, it's not cute. Man, I could nose this stuff all night. And this is one of the whiskeys, and there are a few, not many I'd say, but a few, where I could sit and nose them all night, and I have to remind myself to start a sipping. A lot of brown sugar on that sip. And there's the bloom of the oak, but this time, because I swallowed quicker, it's coming with the cinnamon. There's some spice right on the front of my tongue. And now that oak and cinnamon is moving back and down. Meanwhile, I call this a dead soldier. A lot of people call it a bottle kill. And I have found that with whiskey, as with everything else, every single person uses the same tired cliches. You know, when I first started, everybody said it's a dram or a pour. Now they're still saying pour, but now they're starting to say it's a sip. You know, this is a really good pour. This is a fantastic sip. Well, no. Sip is what you do. You take a sip of. A sip of? What's in the glass? Is it a pour? A sip of whiskey. This is a glass of whiskey. Now, if people would change up the terminology and get some variety in their expression, it would not gall me. If somebody said sip one time and pour the next and dram another time. But everybody says the same thing all the time. And that gets my goat, and I consequently refuse to follow the lemmings over the cliff, and so I don't call it a pour, and I don't call it a sip, and I don't call it a dram. It's a glass of whiskey. And it's mighty good whiskey. So to me, this isn't a bottle kill. It's a dead soldier. Now, yes, that is a slang term that at least once was common in the world of liquor, but it's not that common now. So I'll use it. It's also an empty bottle. It's also, well, now that I want to, I can't come up with any alternatives. But it's dead, that's for sure. Soldier, Marine, whatever. She's dead. She's gone. She's still here. And there are a lot of people who... I don't know if it's accurate after all to say there are a lot of people who don't like Balcones. There are some who don't, certainly. No question. But the number of people I meet, at least online, because I don't, for various reasons, I'm not tied into the whiskey crowd here in Albuquerque. At least online, very few people have ever tried anything Balcones puts out. And yet there has been opposition to me even trying Balcones. There was one guy who had not tried any Balcones, but he ordered me, essentially, not to try it. He was one of the guys, by the way, who told me not to try rye early on, wanted me to wait till I was used to whatever else. I tried rye anyway. It was okay. Later on, I tried it again. I found I like a good rye now and then. But how was I supposed to know what I liked without trying different things? This one guy I was talking about, finally he did try this and he hated it, which I can't feature. But every palate's different. Not everybody likes the same things. If we did, there would be one brand of whiskey at one proof. The minute I get on camera, I start trying to count the way I used to, but my arthritis won't let me. Let me start over then. There would be one brand of whiskey at one particular proof, at one particular age, and we'd all love it, and nobody would hate it. But palates are different, so some people love anything Balcones puts out. Some people love some stuff Balcones puts out. Others hate anything Balcones puts out. And some won't even try it. And granted, some can't even find it. The distribution in this country is absolutely moronic. This is not the purpose of the video, but now that I'm here, let me, in a very short, brief time, explain what I mean. By federal law, Balcones Distilling, and I'll use them as an example, everybody has to work this way. Balcones Distilling can't sell this bottle directly to the liquor store. The liquor store cannot order 3 cases of this from Balcones. Balcones has to sell it to a distributor who then sells it to the liquor store. They call it the 3-tier system because you have the distiller, the distributor, and the store. In some places, by state law, there's a 4-tier system where a bar has to then buy it from the store instead of from the distributor. That's absolutely insane. In what other manufacturing area does the government mandate a middleman between manufacturer and the store? You know, take a Chevy car. It's a Chevy. No, I'm not no lowrider, and I can do a better Cheech and Chong accent than an actual Hispanic accent. Except when I'm speaking Spanish. Cuando hablo español tengo acento chicano. No sé por qué, pero es realidad. Anyway, Ford, my foot, I hate Ford. Chevy builds a car. They do not have to sell it to a distributor who then sells it to the dealership. It goes from the plant to the dealer. Let me think of something here. Look over there. I see some cheese pizza Cheetos. Great flavor, by the way. Frito-Lay makes those. They do not have to sell them to a distributor. They sell them to the store. Now, yes, a vendor comes in and stocks that. But the store did not buy them from a distributor, which bought them from Frito-Lay. The store bought them from Frito-Lay directly. My cell phone that I'm recording on. Motorola made it. Didn't have to sell it to a distributor. It went to the store where I bought it. This Coke here. Coke made it, sold it to the store. No distributor. But the government mandates a middleman when it comes to alcohol. And that is part of why the price is so high. I can't remember the name of the video, but Randy Sullivan on Bourbon Real Talk recently did a video where he discussed how much the distiller makes, how much the distributor makes, how much the store makes typically on a bottle of whiskey. And guess what? The smallest percentage is going to the distiller. The largest is going to the middleman. This $30 or $28 bottle of whiskey probably would have cost $15 if it weren't for the distributor. And you can't get away from it. The government forces the distillery to sell to the distributor and forces the liquor store to buy from the distributor. Now there's a system that ought to be a dead soldier. So with that, I tried to be brief. I was not as brief as I intended, but I'm still only at 23 and a half minutes, so salud.